I'm in Japan right now, and there are 3 Japanese rules that they use to kill visceral fat in 3 weeks. And there's a specific reason why the Japanese are 10 times leaner than the Americans. They're 6 times leaner than the Australians, the British, and the Canadians, and 5 times leaner than Germans. But that's not even the crazy part. Coming here to Japan, I've discovered that it's actually illegal to be fat. And they even take this to the level of schools. And I'm going to explain this in depth in the end because I think there's a lot of powerful mechanisms that we can apply today that will help us lose our visceral fat in 3 weeks. Let's not waste any time and dive straight in. I came all the way to Japan to really unpack why the Japanese are so lean and how they lose their visceral fat. And you, if you even follow point number 1, you will be able to lose all of your visceral fat. Guaranteed, because there is scientific literature backing everything I've mentioned. Point number 1 is called Hari Hachibu, which directly translates eat until 80% full. And I know you may be thinking, okay, Dr. Mike, that just sounds too simple. But this is exactly why the Japanese are so lean. They have practiced this over years, which I'll talk again about the illegality of being fat in step number 3. So we know that if you are in a 20% caloric deficit, let's assume you're eating 2,500, 20% of that is 500 calories, multiply that by 7 days in the week, gives you 3,500. We know a pound of fat is equivalent to 3,500 calories. By doing this alone, eating to 80% full, you can lose a pound of fat, but with this entire strategy that I'm going to share with you, you can even lose more of your visceral fat in 3 weeks. So now we understand the idea of why it is important to eat till 80% full, but how can I do it in my day-to-day life? And if I say so myself, which I've come up with, this technique is genius. So the big problem we have in the Western society, we eat too quickly and our brains don't register fullness quick enough. So now going into the research, what I found is that it takes 20 minutes for the brain to register fullness. And this is also exactly what Ozempic does. Ozempic essentially signals to the brain fullness and tells you, hey, I'm actually not hungry. It actually slows down how fast food leaves your stomach, so you feel full all the time. And this is essentially what happens over time. People are just eating less and less naturally. I'm going to show you how to save thousands of dollars and how to do the natural Ozempic the natural way with being able to eat 80% full. Hari Hachibu is actually a Confucian-derived technique developed in Okinawa. And Okinawa is one of the few blue zones, essentially a high concentration of individuals living over 100 here in Japan. And this is exactly why they've been able to live so long. And actually, I'm here in Japan, and there's an island that has the highest amount of people who have lived over 100. Would you guys like to see a video of me traveling to Okinawa and interviewing the people there and essentially investigating why this small island has the highest amount of centenarians, people who have lived over 100? If you want me to go to Okinawa, leave the video the gentle thumbs up and comment down below, Dr. Mike, go to Okinawa, and I'll make it happen. I'll invest in it. I'll fly to Okinawa and I'll research and investigate why so many people there live to over 100. Again, touching on more on Hari Hachibu. So how can we register fullness? Because of 3 hormones. Essentially, your food goes into your stomach and 3 fullness hormones are released. CCK, the second hormone is GLP-1, which you are familiar with, and then the third hormone is peptide YY. Those 3 hormones travel through the bloodstream up to the vagus nerve, and it takes about 20 minutes for your brain to register fullness. But the problem is right now, all of us essentially are eating, and we eat all the food completely, we get it done in 10 minutes, and then by the time you realize that you've overeaten, you're laying on the sofa passed out because you're very full. And we continue this. First thing the Japanese do is, while I've been here in Osaka and in Tokyo and in Kyoto, all the cities that I've traveled to, at every restaurant, they serve people even before you've placed an order. And it's strategic, and literally 90% of the restaurants I went to here did this. They serve you one of 3 things. They serve you either water, green tea, or matcha. And these 3 things are visceral fat burners. Let me explain. Now I'll start with green tea and matcha because this is super interesting. Green tea and matcha both contain a powerful compound that has been shown by science to directly target visceral fat. And that compound is EGCG, which translates to epigallocatechin gallate. And EGCG, essentially what it does is that it allows your body to to utilize fat cells more as a source of energy, and specifically visceral fat cells, because the visceral fat cells just have so many more receptors to be able to access as a source of energy. And essentially what EGCG does, the most simple way I can explain, is that it adds more lines to your highway so your body can use visceral fat as a source of energy. And this is exactly why the Japanese give you this drink before you even order a meal. What it also does, remember I told you it takes your brain about 20 minutes to register fullness. What you're doing is when you drink the matcha or the green tea, your stomach receptors are already expanding. You're also being hydrated. But not only that, we know that green tea and matcha contain caffeine, the body's most powerful fat burner. And essentially the mixture of caffeine with the stomach acid creates a little bit of gas and stretches these mechanoreceptors, initially starting the clock to 20 minutes so that you feel full. And that's already a small thing that you can do. So all you need to do, 20 minutes before your main meal or any meal, either drink green tea or matcha. And where the sparkling water comes in is that if it's late night, beyond 12 o'clock, no more caffeine. So I highly recommend drinking sparkling water because it will stretch your mechanoreceptors. And essentially what you'll notice is while you're eating your meal, you'll be like, wow, I feel full already. The next simple thing I want you to do is essentially just set a 20-minute timer before you eat every meal. And what this will do is it will just, number one, bring yourself to top of consciousness. Instead of inhaling your food, you will know, hey, I need to eat it with time. And being here in Japan, I've noticed that people eat and they put their chopsticks down. They'll essentially look at their food, they'll acknowledge their food. Yes, of course, like you'll see the younger people with phones or laptops in front of them, but I noticed they all have the habit of putting their food down. So how can you incorporate this? Number one, your first bite of every meal, take 20 chews and count it, 20 to 30 chews. And essentially what this will do is it will make you register the pace of how quickly you eat, and you're also allowing your body to get to that point of reaching fullness than you usually do. The complete opposite is that you have your earphones in, you're watching an anime show like I do, and then you're just eating your food and it's done in 10 minutes, and you're thinking, hey, should I get a snack? I still feel hungry. But the real problem is that you've just been eating too quickly. So count 20 chews, that will set the pace. Do that at least 3 times of like one bite, put the fork down, another bite, put the fork down. Then something that's interesting that you can incorporate that the Japanese do is, by design, if you eat with chopsticks compared to a spoon, you eat smaller portions, you take smaller bites, and doing this alone can cause less glucose spikes, consequently stopping you from putting your body more in storage mode. So you get less of a glucose spike because a spoon has a lot more quantity compared to the amount that you can take in a chopstick. Now again, you don't have to go to the extreme of getting chopsticks, but if this is a practice you're considering, you really want to lose your visceral fat in 3 weeks without really struggling, set yourself the objective of using the chopsticks, but also timing yourself for 20 minutes. Now, the next thing I noticed the Japanese do, which is genius, after they've given you your matcha, they usually bring you a fiber. You're either going to get a fermented food like a miso soup, or they're going to bring you kimchi or anything that's fermented. What they're essentially doing is they're doing a couple of things. You'll notice that the Japanese practice something called ichiju sansai, which translates to 1 soup and 3 side dishes. And the side dishes is usually a rice, they have a protein source, and they have different veggies. But essentially they give you 3 to 5 different plates of food, but they always serve the veggies first. The next thing I want you to do, which the Japanese do naturally, is the PFC system. We're in my favorite restaurant in Japan, and I'm going to show you live how to utilize the PFC system. This is going to help you lose your visceral fat in 3 weeks. So step number 1, because it's late night, we're going to go for sparkling water. Sparkling water essentially is going to start stretching your mechanoreceptors in your stomach, sending the fullness signal to your brain, and it's also going to create a barrier to prevent you from overeating your meal. Number 2 is the PFC system. What that stands for: protein first, fiber second, and then carbohydrates. The main objective of eating in this format is creating a less of an insulin spike, and I'll show you the science behind it. And we know the less of an insulin spike, the less fat storage is happening, but also you're gonna feel a lot more fullness, and essentially eating this way allows you to have a more natural Ozempic. Let me explain. So first, protein. I want you to eat, before you have the rice or anything else, at least
50% of the protein. So from these 4 fillets that I'm going to have half of this. And then as I've had 50% of this, I will then move on to my fiber. And what we have here is radish, kimchi, which is with the cabbage. This is cucumber kimchi, and we have bell root kimchi. Amazing benefits. Number 1, fiber essentially creates a gel-like substance in your stomach, creating a barrier for preventing the carbs from entering your bloodstream too quickly. The second benefit is that kimchi has good gut bacteria, and the good gut bacteria will essentially help with digestion. So not only are you helping yourself lose visceral fat quicker, but you're also creating a gel-like substance in your stomach to digest slower. All the benefits that Ozempic really gives you, but at a fraction of the cost. And then you can have your carbohydrates final in the end, and then you can mix it all together. But essentially 50% of your protein, 50% of your fiber, and then your carbs last, and then you can mix it all together and eat normally. But that is the PFC system live.
Protein first, fiber second, and carbs last. And this Ichiju Sansai is actually designed to eat this way. Eat at least half of your protein first, or half of your fiber first, just like the Japanese do it. And what that does already, you're already starting the timer to start the fullness, and you're already filling your stomach up with fiber, which forms a gel in your stomach, slowing down the digestion of the food, slowing down how quickly food hits your bloodstream, slowing down how quickly insulin spikes, the fat storage hormone. This is how, by this system, you're also going to be able to get that Ozempic effect naturally. Protein will also stimulate peptide YY. Remember, I told you that this is one of the fullness hormones that your body releases to your brain. Also will help you build muscle and increase your metabolic rate. So eating protein and fiber first, just like the Japanese do. Now you understand exactly how to eat to be able to lose your visceral fat in 3 weeks. Now it's time to show you how to exercise to lose your visceral fat in 3 weeks. What if I told you that there's a technique that's even better than 10,000 steps? And research has shown that this Japanese walking technique is 10 times better than walking 10,000 steps. Let me explain. I call it the Japanese walking technique, but researchers at Shinsu University in 2007 discovered something called interval walking training. And research shows that it is 29 times better at aerobic fitness just doing this 30-minute exercise. It is 10 times better for overall leg strength, and it has shown 3 times improvement in people's blood pressure. And not only that, it is shown to decrease the waist by 6 centimeters just doing this specific exercise. So how to execute it? Essentially, you walk fast for 3 minutes and you walk slow for 3 minutes. And what I do is I call this HIIT light. We know that there's a benefit between running at a short burst and then walking or jogging, right? You've heard of high intensity interval training. But essentially, the Japanese are not extreme. They like something that can be sustainable and they can do every day. And instead of running, you essentially walk fast for 3 minutes. Picture you're trying to get to your gate before you miss a flight, and then you walk normally for 3 minutes. You get the same benefits that you would from doing HIIT, but without putting a lot of stress on your body, spiking your cortisol, and then potentially causing injury. Now, what they discovered, after 5 months of people doing the Japanese walking technique, people improved their body composition. They dropped visceral fat, systolic blood pressure improved, their life expectancy improved, their waist circumference decreased, all without killing yourself in the gym. And even practicing this myself, you guys have known that I talk about if you walk 10 minutes, you will get essentially 1,000 steps. So in 30 minutes, you should get 3,000. But what I discovered is that when you do this technique, in 30 minutes, instead of 3,000 steps, you actually get 4,500 steps. Doing it myself here in Japan, I saw in 30 minutes, I got 4,500 steps. Nearly half of the targeted steps that you need to do in 30 minutes. So this is exactly how to do the Japanese walking technique. It's simple. 3 minutes of a fast-paced walk. Picture you're trying to get to your gate before missing your flight, and then walking slowly for 3 minutes. Repeat that for 5 sets, and that's your 30 minutes cardio and getting 4,500 steps. already almost half of all the steps that you need to hit the 10,000. And research has shown time and time again that walking taps mainly into visceral fat. And this is exactly why I call it the fat loss accelerator. With Haria Chibu, we're being able to tackle the visceral fat part from the diet side. With the Japanese walking technique, we're accelerating the fat loss by burning more calories by walking more, all through this 30-minute exercise. Combine these two and it's going to be what you need to lose your visceral fat in 3 weeks. All I ask you is on a daily basis, just walk for 30 minutes. Take your timer, fast-paced walk 3 minutes, slow-paced walk for 3 minutes. In the Japanese, secret number 3 is the Metabo law. Now, this one is going to be controversial and dystopian, but I think that there's a lot to learn from this that we can incorporate in our own ways. And I'm also going to talk about the laws that they've established for kids that help them, and I think this will really help you think about where a lot of these habits and why you've accumulated the visceral fat. But diving in, what is the Metabo law? Metabo directly translates to metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome accounts for about 80% of the deaths that happen in this entire world, from the cardiovascular risk to diabetic risks, to all of it. So this is essentially the Metabo law, is that between the age of 40 years and 74, if I'm not mistaken, men should have a waist no larger than 33.5 inches and women should have a waist no larger than 35.5 inches. And essentially this is measured yearly by the government. And if a company, a real business, has majority of their employees with a waist size over that with their employees, essentially the company is fined. And this is a way that the company incentivizes their employees to have good health. Essentially, there's more focus on you to be able to reduce your waist size so that we can prevent metabolic syndrome, prevent the deaths that happen because of being overweight. In my personal opinion, just a level of accountability, a level of consciousness, just people thinking about it more, saying, hey, my waist size is going up. Instead of noticing that you need to buy new pants because they're too tight, you start to notice, hey, actually, instead of buying new pants, how about I start walking a little bit more, or exercising, or just thinking about my food a little bit more. And yes, in some places they're not enforcing this directly, but this is now more top of consciousness because this is being brought into law. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about this law specifically, if you think it's a good or a bad thing, or if you think that this should be implemented in around the world. Now remember when I told you that this is also involved at a school level. What you'll notice walking around in Japan, it is rare to see somebody overweight. And being here myself, the people I see overweight are actually us, the foreigners. And the question is, what are they doing that's so different? And doing a little bit of research for this video, every single school actually employs a professional nutritionist that builds every school meal and is responsible for teaching every child everything they know about nutrition, which is incredible. Pre-med, while I was doing my Bachelor of Science for 3 years, and in med school for the other 6 years, we maybe spent 1 day, if not less, on nutrition. They do not teach doctors or anybody about nutrition. But in Japan, they put into law in 2005 that kids must be taught nutrition. So all the teachers, specifically the nutritionist, on top of their 3-year intense qualification, they go through another 3 years of intense studying and training on nutrition. And these nutritionists are responsible for educating the school on nutrition. They're responsible for building the meal plans that the school kids eat. And this is exactly the rules. Every meal that children eat at school is prepared on the day. They go so far as having no processed foods. And when I say no processed foods, they don't even permit tomato paste or garlic paste in their diet because that would have been processed. So they teach the kids how to eat whole processed foods. And not only that, doing research, they actually go into specifics and show kids, hey, you see this white line? This represents carbohydrates. This red line here represents protein. And kids are fully aware of the food that they're putting into their bodies. And essentially, I've noticed this with my clients. Once they've come through my program and they've coached their kids, they've told me my kids actually want to pack their own lunch. So I think this level of education at the school level allows kids to make more informed decisions. How does this apply to you with losing visceral fat in 3 weeks? For the next 3 weeks, no processed food, no alcohol, no candy, no sweets. Set the rule for yourself. If the food you're about to eat has more than 5 ingredients on the label, you'll turn it around, you don't eat it. For the next 3 weeks, no processed foods. And just for the overall idea of this metabo law and what they're doing with kids, the idea here is education, understanding and being conscious of the food that you're putting into your body, and having a level of accountability. I also recommend to people, and research has shown this, step on the scale every day in the morning. And yes, I get it, some people may think that it's painful, it hurts their feelings, or they feel bad about themselves, but think about it. It's a 1-second exercise where you pull it out, you step on the scale. And what I've seen with my clients and coaching thousands of people at this stage is that when you step on the scale and you notice that the scale is higher than it was yesterday, your brain goes back and replays the entire day, and you ask yourself, why is it higher today than it was yesterday? And essentially it's a self-correcting mechanism. You may notice, you know what, I put too much sodium on my meal, or hey, I did have that extra dessert, and very likely on the next day you're not going to have the dessert or repeat the bad behavior you think caused the weight increase. On the opposite end, let's say the next day after that, you step on the scale again, you see that the weight is down, you'll feel good. And essentially that dopamine that you're going to feel, you're going to want to repeat the same behavior you did on that day to be able to lose weight again. And essentially this is a self-accountability system that is actually shown to decrease the rates of obesity, which exactly how the Japanese are doing it. But essentially those are the 3 Japanese rules that I want you to implement. Let me know in the comments, is the metabo law too crazy? Are you going to try any of these 3 things? And remember, I did mention that if you guys want me to go to Okinawa and interview people there, leave the video the gentle thumbs up and let me know, Dr. Mike, visit Okinawa. We want to know more about the centenarians and how to live to 100 years, and I'll do that for you. But I think this is an amazing video that you should watch next. I'll see you in the next one.